take as Prime Minister, and that is the responsibility that this moment demands. Thank you. I'm now going to take some questions, and I've got a fairly extensive list, you'll be pleased to know. I'm going to start, with Chris Mason from BBC News.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Chris Mason, BBC News. This is clearly incredibly difficult. What more in specific terms can you tell us about what you plan to do now? It appears that you're ruling out retaliatory tariffs in the UK. Can you confirm that? And would you consider going to see President Trump face-to-face this week? Thank you.
Well, what I'm going to do now is to focus on our national interest and be absolutely clear that that requires us to be clear about the principles that we apply to a situation like this, in particular that the future of Greenland is for Greenland and the Denmark Kingdom, and that tariffs should not be used against allies in this way. In relation to the escalation, look, a tariff war is in nobody's interests. And we have not got to that stage, and my focus, therefore, is making sure we don't get to that stage, and that's what I'm doing at the moment. Thank you, Chris. Beth, can I come to you?
Thank you. Prime Minister, many people watching this at home will have been shocked and angry over the weekend that our so-called closest ally is threatening us if we try to stop him illegally annexing Greenland. Is this the most serious crisis in the transatlantic relationship in decades? And how can the US remain our closest ally when it's bullying us like this? And just on tariffs, you say they are completely wrong and it will hurt the British economy. But if Trump does go ahead, to be clear, are you telling the British people that we will have to take that economic pain, and are you planning retaliatory tariffs if that happens? Thank you.
Well, thank you, Beth. And firstly, to underscore your point, this has been very badly received across the United Kingdom. We're allies of the United States, and we work closely with them, and therefore I'm not surprised by the reaction that's been across the United Kingdom, and it is a very serious situation. Our job is to ensure that we find a way forward consistent with our principles and our values and consistent with our national interest. And the US remains a close ally on defence, on security and on intelligence, on nuclear capability. We work very closely with the United States, and we must never lose sight of our national interest in that, but we must stand up for our values. We must be clear about the principles that we are applying here, and we'll continue to do so. On the question of tariffs, a tariff war isn't in anybody's interests, and therefore what I want to do is to avoid a tariff war, because it will be businesses, workers and families across the country that will be hit by a trade war, and therefore I will do as I've set out, which is to engage with our European allies, with President Trump. And Chris, in response to the second part of your question, I spoke to President Trump yesterday, as I think you all know, and I'll no doubt speak to him again in coming days. Continually, our offices talk all the time, but we must find a pragmatic, sensible, sustained way through this that avoids some of the consequences that will be very serious for our country. Thank you very much, Beth. Robert Peston.
Robert Peston, ITV. Prime Minister, your entire approach is predicated on the idea that Donald Trump is amenable to reason and respects the rule of law, but it's patently clear that neither of those assumptions are true. So when will you consider some kind of economic retaliation through tariffs? And will you talk to the monarch, to the king, about not going to America to celebrate 250 years since independence?
Well, Robert, this is a serious situation, and as I've said, threatening tariffs on allies is the wrong thing to do, completely wrong. And a trade war is not in our interests, and therefore my first task is to ensure we don't get to that place, which is what I'm focused on at the moment and will continue to focus on. In relation to wider issues, I don't want to lose sight of the central goal here, which is to avoid the seriousness that a trade war would bring. In relation to your broader point, we do have to remember at all times that it is in our national interest that we continue to work with the Americans when it comes to defence, to security and to intelligence. Our nuclear deterrent is our foremost weapon and deterrent when it comes to securing the safety of everybody in the United Kingdom. It's my primary duty. And that requires us to have a good relationship with the United States. But it doesn't mean, as I said a moment ago, that we pretend we don't have differences. We do have differences. And I've set out some of those differences here this morning in relation to Greenland. Differences of opinion in terms of who should decide the future of Greenland. I'm very clear in my position in that. And differences of opinion on the use of tariffs in a situation like this. And again, I've been very clear saying they're completely wrong. So we apply our values. And we seek a solution that's in our national interest. Thank you, Robert. Chris Hope.
Chris Hope, GBNews, Prime Minister. Donald Trump says he no longer feels an obligation to think purely of peace. It's now the moment you must choose between the US and the EU. Is this a fracturing in your special relationship?
Firstly, I don't think it's right for us to choose between the US and Europe. That's not a new position today. That's the position I've consistently held, as have previous governments, because we are allies with our European partners and allies with the US. And the strength in being able to keep both those alliances has served us well over the last 80 years. So this is not a moment to sort of choose one between the other. I have argued, and this is not an argument for the first time today, and I've spoken to European allies and leaders about the need for Europe to step up and do more in its own defence and security. I feel that over many years we've not paid enough attention to what we European nations can and should do in our own defence, and this reinforces why it's important that we do that in defence and security. And defence and security these days, of course, includes energy and resilience and cyber, as well as the traditional defence and security. Europe has to step up into that space, and that's an argument I've been leading on and making for a number of months now with our European partners, and will continue to do so. Thank you, Chris. I've got Gary Gibbon from Channel 4. Gary.
Thank you, Prime Minister. You say that Donald Trump remains an ally, but a lot of people would look at his behaviours and say he's not remotely behaving like an ally. Is there anything he could do that would make you think he was no longer an ally? Or is it just unthinkable? Are we totally locked in? And just one other, if I may, some puzzlement that those forces, quite limited military personnel that went to Greenland, that he interpreted that as a hostile act. Do you have any sense that he might have been misinformed about that entire expedition?
Well, taking the second bit first, if I may, that is one of the things I discussed with President Trump yesterday in relation to those forces which were clearly there to assess and work on risk from the Russians. And so there's real clarity, I hope, about that. In relation to the relationship, we must never lose sight of the fact that on defence, security, intelligence and nuclear capability, we work very closely with our US allies, and it's in our national interest to continue to do so. That doesn't mean pretending we don't have differences, and I don't think anybody could suggest I'm pretending we don't have differences. I'm spelling out what those differences are, what our principles and values are, and how we approach them. But we do continue to work with the Americans. The situation in the Middle East is fragile. There is a ceasefire. We need to move to phase 2. We mustn't lose sight of that. In Ukraine, we've been striving for a just and lasting peace for a long time now. We're 4 years into that conflict. It is in our interest to work with others to bring about that just and lasting peace. The last thing we should do is to simply throw all that away and pretend that it doesn't matter anymore. It does matter. But we don't do that by pretending we haven't got differences. We do have differences, and I'm spelling them out here this morning. Thank you very much, Gary. I've got Kitty Donaldson from iNews.
Thank you, Prime Minister. The US Supreme Court is due to rule next week on whether the tariffs are legal for the President to use. Do you think it's worth just biding your time until next week? And secondly, I don't think you answered Robert's question, which was, do you think the King should go to the United States this year?
I'm not going to comment on the Supreme Court ruling. I think it's due out reasonably soon. but I don't think it would be sensible to simply wait for the court. It's really important that we act now in response to the threat of tariffs, and that's why I spoke to President Trump yesterday and to numerous allies across Europe, many leaders during the course of yesterday afternoon, Secretary General of NATO, and will continue to do so today, because it's in all our interests to act swiftly in relation to this matter. Look, in relation to the King and other issues, as I said in my speech, I'm focused on the pragmatic response here, not the suggestion of others, and my focus is on what's in the national interest for our country, what is going to best protect workers, families, businesses, and I believe that's the approach that I've set out. Thank you, Kitty. I've got Craig Munro from the Metro.
Craig Munro from Metro. You spoke about the cost of living in your speech there. How can you be sure, how can you reassure people that the cost of living will improve in the UK when our economic picture is so reliant on an unreliable ally in an unstable global world?
By taking the approach that I've set out today. Some people appear to make the argument that what happens internationally is irrelevant to the cost of living issues that are faced across this country. I'm well aware that for all the volatility in the world, and we've seen plenty of that in the first few weeks of this year, the issue that is of central concern to families and communities across...
So that's the Prime Minister making an emergency speech, press conference, in response to the imposition of tariffs. Catherine Forster, he hasn't said a lot, but he's standing... He says he's obviously going to resist, but what we don't know is if he's going to go down the same route that's been floated by Emmanuel Macron of France, for instance. They call it the EU's big bazooka, hit back with trade sanctions.
Yes, that's what the EU are threatening, and Emmanuel Macron, the keenest to use that 93 billion euros of sanctions, potentially. That was something designed originally to counter a threat from, say, China, not America. I think watching that press conference, I heard a lot of words. I'm not sure that we're very much clearer. No. The Prime Minister's overarching message seems to be keep calm and carry on. He says that they need calm discussion between allies. A trade war is in no one's interests. Yes, of course. But what he hasn't done at all is say what he might consider if that doesn't
He wouldn't
work.
even respond to the legitimate question, should the King and Queen go to America later this year to mark the 250th anniversary of the creation of the United States. The Queen was there in 1976, famously dancing with Gerald Ford. He wouldn't even answer that question.
No, I think he's treading on the most delicate of eggshells. I mean, we know in Davos, the meeting of the World Economic Forum, we know that Donald Trump is going. Number 10 are still not saying whether the Prime Minister will be going or not. You would think, I know he gets criticised for never here, Keir, being always away, but you would think if ever there was a time that it was a good idea to go somewhere and get a bit of face-to-face with Donald Trump and other European leaders, the time would be now. He's, of course, very protective of this special relationship that he's put a lot of work into, but at the moment, you know, it's all very well, it doesn't feel very special. It's all very well. Donald Trump is existing in a parallel universe, it seems, where he's just saying we're going to have Greenland. And this morning, it seems that he's written to the Prime Minister of Norway and basically saying, well, you didn't give me the Nobel Peace Prize and I stopped 8 wars, and so now I don't feel compelled to think about peace. Who says that Denmark should have Greenland anyway, because they sent some boats there a few hundred years ago. So I feel like there's one world in which we're keeping calm and carrying on, and there's another very different world in Donald Trump just saying sell us Greenland, or we're going to take it anyway. We can do it the easy way, or we can do it the hard way, but it will be done.
Catherine, it was never going to be easy for Keir Starmer's government to forge a relationship with Donald Trump. There are obviously huge political differences between the Republican Party in the US, the Labour Party here. Added to that, Trump is a particularly controversial leader, particularly hated by the European left. But in some ways, Starmer has done a good job of remaining close to the president, inviting him here for a historic second state visit. I assume he thought that all that work or all that flattery of Donald Trump would give us a special relationship, would give us a special deal when it came to tariffs. Do you think that's all being blown out of the water now? Do you think he's realising that you cannot butter up Donald Trump?
Well, they would say that we did get a better deal from than the EU. We got 10% tariffs rather than 15, but all that sort of goes out the window if Trump does act on this threat. I think the hope is taco. Trump always chickens out that what he says and what he actually does may be two different things. Remember the huge escalation that we heard with China, the tariffs that there were going to be, and they did row back from that. But I think we have to take this very, very seriously because Donald Trump has clearly decided that he wants Greenland. He went into Venezuela. He took the leader out. He regards Greenland as fair game. And let's face it, if they did decide to go in militarily, yes, it's a NATO ally.
It's very difficult to understand is that they have agreement with Denmark already. They can position whatever military assets that they want to on the island. They already have plenty there. The Danes have already said they could expand those assets. They would be open to a discussion about extracting the minerals. There's nothing that the US can't achieve through negotiations and finance that they would need to occupy Greenland for. Could it just be that Trump has got into his head that he wants it and he doesn't want anyone to stand in his way, and there's nothing more to it than that?
Well, it could very well be about territory. He wants it. It could be empire building. He wants to expand America. That would be historic. Of course, they bought Alaska from the Russians. As you say, there is already a post-war agreement with Denmark. America can put as many troops as it wants on Greenland. It used to have about 17 bases. Now it's only got 1. They could already do that. And also, as James Cartledge, the Shadow Defence Secretary, said this morning, this is what NATO is for. NATO is for our collective defence. Donald Trump surely doesn't need to own Greenland to protect it. Also, minerals deals. Greenland is open to that. Greenland gets more and more valuable as the world gets hotter, of course, but when you take those arguments away, what are you left with? That he wants it because he wants the territory.
And he seems to be suggesting that only he can protect Greenland from Russia. There's no indication that Russia's even remotely interested in occupying Greenland.
No, and what I would say too, because I've been on visits with the Prime Minister to Norway and Estonia, the Joint Expeditionary Force, the Nordic countries, Baltic countries and the UK are doing a lot of work, a lot of exercises already. And if Donald Trump is worried about Russia taking Greenland, well, we've got a war in Ukraine that's been going on for years, and many would say that Donald Trump could potentially apply a bit more pressure on Putin there. So it's very, very odd.
Catherine, thank you. And we are now joined by Emily Jaeger, who's the political editor at a Danish newspaper, BT. Emily, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on GB News. Denmark is in the spotlight at the moment. How is the Trump strategy going down amongst your fellow Danes?
Poorly, I must say. On Saturday, when he announced that he threatened with the tariffs regarding Greenland, it was actually on the same day that there had been demonstrations in Denmark in 4 of the largest cities here in Denmark against the United States and against Donald Trump. So, of course, people here we weren't really a country that liked Trump that much to begin with, and this certainly hasn't improved that, I must say. Our Foreign Minister, Lars Løkke Rasmussen, he said yesterday that the announcements from Trump came as a surprise and was very disruptive, but that Denmark nonetheless would continue in this diplomatic process with the high-level working group regarding Greenland that they decided on Wednesday when we visited J.D. Vance.
The president is going to Davos, which is where all sorts of interesting people go, politicians, businessmen and women. Is the Prime Minister of Denmark going to be there, which would give your Prime Minister an opportunity to lobby the president directly?
No, that's not on the table yet. We haven't heard anything about that. What we have heard is that she talked to your Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, yesterday, and our Defense Minister is talking to Mark Rutte from NATO today in Brussels. So there's been all kinds of diplomatic relations being started. But no, we haven't heard that Mette Frederiksen is supposed to be meeting with Trump on Wednesday in Davos. But as you say, it would be an opportunity for her viewpoint, because also I just have to say, regarding the defense agreement that you guys talked about a little bit before, the 1951 agreement, it is true the United States has all the opportunity in the world to have as many soldiers as they was possibly like in Greenland. But the question is, if I can just add that, is that an independent Greenland, and that is the course that Greenlanders have been talking about for years, is that they want to be independent, is whether or not the Greenlandic people would honor, and the politicians would honor that agreement. That, I think, I talked to a previous advisor to Donald Trump a couple of days ago, and he said that's what we really need to bear in mind, is would the Greenlandic politicians actually want to honor that agreement? I just think, in all fairness, we need to have that element in the debate as well, because I called up a lot of the Greenlandic politicians, and they wouldn't give me a clear answer to whether or not they would actually honor that agreement from 1951. And I think that could be essential.
I'm sure that's significant, but Elliot, I suspect with the President of the United States, he might not care whether the Greenlandic politicians respect the 1951 treaty. If he wants to flood Greenland with thousands of more American troops, I suspect he will.
Yeah, and I guess that's kind of where we are now, right? Because Denmark can be as hard as we want to be in our rhetoric. We can say all these kind of things. We can have statements and such. But the reality is that we really can't do anything. If Trump decides that he wants Greenland, then he wants Greenland. We can't put up with anything like that.
Although what is interesting, Emily, is that the US public do not support, by and large, Trump's mission to gain Greenland. Just 17% approve of his desire to take Greenland, and only 4% would support using military force. So although it would be a challenge for the Europeans, and we've become painfully aware recently how weak Europe is militarily, if Europe was to put up some sort of resistance, even if it only economically through tariffs, it is possible that the US domestic voters would rapidly withdraw their support from Trump. Do you think that would make any difference?
I'm not so sure. I mean, I guess that it could give him some trouble in the United States, but no, not really. Also because we need to remember that Trump spoke about the threats on making tariffs after Denmark and other NATO members announced that they want to put more soldiers up in Greenland, because they wanted to signal that they take security of the Arctic very seriously, right? But that was not how Trump interpreted it. So Denmark is really stuck in a very complex and very difficult situation, right? Because we wanted to show, yes, we understand that the Arctic and Greenland is very geopolitical of importance to the United States, so we're going to put more troops there. And he just took that as an escalation, right? So now we're just caught between a Trump and a hard place.
I'm curious, Emily, too. Trump says he wants to buy Greenland. Does anyone know what the price tag would be on Greenland? How much would Greenland sell itself for, or how much would Denmark sell it for? I mean, who would get the money if Trump was to buy Greenland?
Well, first and foremost, there's been no one in the Danish government or the Greenlandic government that want to speculate on that number at all. They all just keep repeating that Greenland is not for sale. And we have the Prime Minister of Greenland saying that if he had to choose between the United States and Denmark, he would choose the Denmark anytime. So yeah, I think there's been some calculations on that, or there has been some calculations on that in other medias, but it's not anything. It's not a debate that they want to get into at all from an official level in Denmark or Greenland.
Emily, one of the problems with this debate is that it's taking place so publicly, which is, of course, causing instability. It could cause stock market changes, all sorts of other implications around the world. Do you know if Trump or his team approached the Danish government privately before starting all this public bluster, or is this just part of Trump's strategy to frighten people, I suppose, into complying?
I can't tell for sure, because whenever I ask our Prime Minister, Mette Frederiksen, when have you last spoken to Donald Trump, she will give me some kind of vague answer. For instance, I don't usually go into what kind of dialogue I have directly with my colleagues around the world. So we don't really know, other than that we can sense that there is not all that much direct communication going on between our Mette Frederiksen and Donald Trump. We had that meeting on Wednesday between our foreign minister and J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio in Washington, D.C. But we also know that even though that was a somewhat productive meeting, they can't even agree on what that high-level working group that they agreed on should be at place to discuss the future of Greenland. They can't even really agree on what they agreed on there, because Caroline Leavitt, the Trump's spokesperson, said that the working group was supposed to work out the technical details on how the United States would take over Greenland. But that's not how the Danes view it at all. So even when it's in a more diplomatic lane, there's not that much clarity, even though.
And do you know, I know you're quite a long way from Greenland, how nervous are the Greenland people about all this?
Nervous, very nervous. So it's about 55,000 people that are living in Greenland, and whenever we talk to anyone up there, they say this is a very unsure, unstable time for us. We don't feel all that safe. We feel like we are being talked over our heads and not talked to us, and yeah, they just keep repeating that we are not for sale. We don't want to be a part of the United States. Every poll that has shown that there's not a big group of Greenlanders that want to go down that road. They want to decide for themselves, right? And the question is whether they even can or will be allowed to, in a climate where, of course, there are Chinese interests and, of course, there are Russian interests. We had an episode about 10 years or so where China invested a lot, or we're trying to invest a lot of money in some airports in Greenland, and the United States had to go in and put a stop to it. So the question is, if Greenlandic people keep insisting, and one can understand that they want to be independent, they want to rule in their own house, of course, is that even an option, or do they need to have some kind of free associations deal with the United States, because Denmark would not be able to defend Greenland on their own against Russian and Chinese interests, right?
Emily Jaeger, thank you so much for your time this morning. That's Emily Jaeger, who's in Denmark, political editor at the Danish newspaper BT.
What a story. 20 years in Denmark. Amazing, isn't it? It must be wall to wall. Catherine Forster, what do you make of that?
Yes, I mean, you can't really imagine, can you, if you were living in Greenland. I mean, we've seen people that are there saying that they can't sleep at night, that they're having nightmares. And also in Denmark, we've seen the big protests in Copenhagen and in Nuuk, because they feel, look, this is our country. We get to decide what we do. And it's quite terrifying, I think, for them.
Yeah. And apparently some suggestions he could buy it for £75 million.
So for how much?
75 million.
I heard the other day something like 800 billion.
Yeah, it just goes to show.
But look, does everything have a price? Because really, sovereignty should be sacrosanct. And of course, he might want Greenland. And I think a worry too is that he hasn't taken the threat of physically taking it off the table. So will the pressure build up and up and up and up until the point that... And also, even if Denmark wanted to sell Greenland, it's not, which they clearly don't, it's not clear that they could, because Greenland is semi-autonomous. It has its own government. It does. And it manages a lot of its own affairs already, so none of this is clear.
No.
Catherine Forster, thank you very much. We'll be back with you soon, but it is 10 o'clock on Monday, the 19th of January. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
So Starmer says he's standing up to Trump. Well, sort of.
Under President Trump, as under previous presidents, we're determined to keep that relationship strong, constructive, and focused on results.
Well, the Prime Minister warns that while the UK-US relationship is of vital importance, imposing trade tariffs would be dangerous for Britain.
A trade war is in no one's interest, and my job is always to act in the UK's national interest.
I don't want to fight Nigel Farage. We should be working with him. So what I want is Conservatives, whether they're in Reform or whether they're in our party, to try to work together so we get rid of Labour.
I think that conversation was with me at the Tory conference. That is the Tory MP that was the former Shadow Prime Minister Andrew Rosendale speaking 3 months ago. He is the second Tory MP in this Parliament to defect to Reform UK. They now have 7 MPs.
Elsewhere, at least 39 people have been confirmed to have died after 2 trains have collided at high speed in Spain. We will have the latest.
You have to choose now between Davos or Westminster.
Davos.
World leaders are gathering in Davos this week for the World Economic Forum. Donald Trump will be there, Mark Carney from Canada, and Nigel Farage, who used to mock the gathering. The theme this year is a spirit of dialogue.
We'll get the engagement officers, the officers you see around, just to go make that engagement with them to say, hello, you've been flagged up on facial recognition, and go from there.
Are we living in Big Brother Britain? Police have arrested more than 100 wanted criminals using facial recognition cameras. We'll show you how the technology actually works.
You do this.
And Prince Harry arrives at High Court this morning for the start of his privacy trial against the publishers of the Daily Mail. Sir Elton John, Elizabeth Hurley and Baroness Doreen Lawrence are all suing them too.
So, Starmer's speech was mercifully short, because they normally drag on and on. Quite pithy for him, but we're no wiser, Miriam, what he is willing to do.
No,
if he's prepared to use economic sanctions in the way that the French are certainly urging the EU to do. We're outside the EU now, but we have our own range of options.
Well, I think that is the key point. Outside the EU, we don't have the firepower, as it were, to hurt the US at all. It's debatable whether or not the £93 billion of economic sanctions that the EU are discussing would put him off, but at least it would be something. And we've seen that militarily we are completely powerless. There's nothing we can do. Well, but the question is, should we do something to at least show we can't be walked over?
There's a great letter in the Times today suggesting one way to make Donald Trump see sense: nationalise his 2 golf courses in Scotland. Now that would really, and they just say it's in the national interest. Perhaps we need to put some military
skyscrapers on them.
Exactly. So when I read that, I thought, now that's the sort of thing that would really make the President of the United States sit up, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. Well, we don't have very much else to negotiate with. And we know that he's very sentimental about his places in Scotland.
We do.
So
and of course, we also know that the King and Queen Camilla are meant to be going to the United States later this year for a big celebration in the refurbished White House ballroom and all the rest of it to mark the 250th anniversary of the creation of the United States. Will that still happen? That is entirely in the gift of the Prime Minister and the Foreign Office.
Well, we are speaking about the royal family. Joining us now from outside court is GBNews royal correspondent Cameron Walker. Cameron, tell us the latest with Prince Harry's arrival in the UK.
Well, Miriam, I think Prince Harry's arrival is imminent because I believe a Range Rover carrying him and his bodyguards has just driven past my position. He's expected to go through a side gate Yeah, in fact, he's just indicated. So I think we are expecting Prince Harry to arrive at the Royal Courts of Justice in London very, very shortly indeed. His spokesperson tells me he is confident and ready for what could potentially be his final showdown against the British tabloids. It is the third such privacy case he has been involved with, the third newspaper group here in the UK. This time it is the Daily Mail, the publisher of the Daily Mail and the Mail on Sunday associated newspapers. They strongly deny all allegations of unlawful information gathering. Prince Harry and 6 other claimants allege that Daily Mail and its journalists carried out unlawful information gathering, including hiring private investigators to place listening devices inside cars, blagging private records and accessing private phone conversations. As I said, Associated denies all these allegations, and the spokesperson for them has told me that these allegations are preposterous and without foundation. But it could be quite uncomfortable for the Mail because they have consistently denied all allegations of unlawful information gathering, including during the Leveson inquiry way back in 2011, where under sworn testimony they said as such. For Prince Harry, though, it's going to be a bit of an uphill battle. First of all, it's the cost. The total cost of this court case for both sides, the Mail and the co-claimants, is around £40 million. But it isn't just Prince Harry paying the claimant side of the bill. We have David Furnish, we've got Elton John, we've got the actresses Elizabeth Hurley and Sadie Frost. We have Baroness Doreen Lawrence, who is the mother of murdered Steve. Here we are, live pictures now of Prince Harry entering the Royal Courts of Justice. A quick wave to some of the press there. Prince Harry just arriving wearing a dark suit into the Royal Courts of Justice at the High Court alongside his team and security. As I said, his spokesperson told me that he is confident and ready. I understand that he has been meticulously going through the evidence that he is going to be presenting to the court. We think later on this week. Today is just opening arguments, but I believe the Prince wanted to be here, perhaps just to show how important this kind of trial is to him. But as I said, it is going to be a huge uphill battle for Prince Harry, the King's son, because there's a lot of question marks over the reliability of witnesses, which is going to come out in this 9-week trial, but also about the timeline, or basically if he's brought these allegations way too late, because the newspapers, the articles in question date from 1993 all the way up to 2011, and there's a 6-year legal limit as to when you can bring a case if you feel you have a case to bring against a certain newspaper group. So it all depends on whether Harry and his co-claimants can prove when they found out about the articles written about them and whether they feel that it was allegedly written with unlawful information. So as I said, this is expected to be a 9-week trial. The case is going to be starting at 10:30 this morning. Harry due to give evidence later this week. And there's a lot of high stakes here. Either the Daily Mail, for example, the Associated newspapers, it could potentially, if they lose, damage their own journalistic integrity. But as I said, Associated newspapers have always and consistently denied any allegations of wrongdoing, and they are prepared to fight Harry in court.
Cameron Walker, thank you so much for that report. Of course, we did see the pictures there of Prince Harry arriving at court. He seems to spend an awful lot of time in court fighting these battles, perhaps the only time he comes back over to the UK. We do still have Catherine Forster with us in the studio. Catherine, Harry only seems to be in the news these days when he's fighting a legal battle. We don't know, obviously, how this will go. But another example of how his family has become estranged from the wider royal family as a whole.
Yes, it's so sad, isn't it? You think back to that wedding, Meghan and Harry, and the country was so happy for them. There was so much goodwill, the pictures, it was sunny, and the change that we then have seen and how alienated he is and how alone in many ways. And there was so much goodwill towards Harry. Obviously, you know, him and William's mother died in the most tragic of circumstances, and it's all gone so horribly wrong.
And it all links back to that, doesn't it? He blamed the tabloid press, the paparazzi, for contributing to his mother's death. Obviously, he's had his run-ins with them as well, blamed them for some of the hostility that he's had. And you can kind of understand where that's all come from. But nevertheless, not a great look that he's constantly coming over to the UK to fight these battles.
No, it's not. And also, of course, when they decided that they were leaving the UK to make their life in America, they said it because they wanted privacy, they wanted to step back, and then they've gone to America and they've embarked on all sorts of ventures to keep them in the public eye. You know, the book, the Netflix drama, the jams, all the rest of it. It never ends. But it's incredibly sad, isn't it, really, the breakdown between him and his brother and his father, the king, who, of course, we know has not been well. A really, really sad state of affairs.
What would they be thinking? I mean, I imagine the White House will get a transcript of what was said this morning at Downing Street. Catherine, how concerned, anxious are Team Trump going to be by Starmer's comments this morning?
I doubt that they're going to be anxious at all, because the bottom line is Donald Trump is the most powerful man in the world. The United States is the most powerful country, and they've basically realised that they can do whatever they like if they want to, because we can't stop them.
Yeah.
Because we haven't spent the money. We're not united in Europe. Donald Trump, you know, remember in his first term was saying, you're not paying your way. Now we have very belatedly said that we will, but look, we're only at about 2.6%. That's in like by April next year of our GDP. This promise to get to 5%. I mean, we're actually only pledging to get to 3% by the end of the next Parliament. Meanwhile, America has upped their defence spending this year by 50%. Yeah. So the bottom line is we can complain as much as we like, but as I forget who it was, but one of Trump's team said on TV a week or so ago, we are the biggest predator.
Yeah.
And that's where we are.
And we know that Trump spoke to the Secretary-General of NATO, Mark Rutte, former Prime Minister of Holland, I think. It didn't go well.
No, and of course...
I mean, and there was a very short conversation with Starmer too, which apparently didn't go brilliantly either.
Yeah, and I thought it was very interesting yesterday when we got the readout. It was quite clever what Number 10 did. They bundled in a whole load of calls to Mette Frederiksen, the Danish PM, Mark Rutte, Donald Trump, and they gave sort of an overview. Yeah. So we really don't know what was said to Donald Trump. But no, the NATO conversation didn't go well. And meanwhile, Russia and China are absolutely loving this. In fact, somebody from the Kremlin, I can't see it now here, put out, basically retweeted the Prime Minister. Oh, here we are. Kirill Dmitriev, Putin's negotiator in Ukraine, retweeted the Prime Minister and said, panicking Starmer calls Daddy's tariffs completely wrong. Remember, of course, that the Secretary-General of NATO, Mark Rutte, another supposed Trump whisperer, at one point drew an analogy, effectively calling Donald Trump the daddy. And Russia, of course, think this is all fabulous.
It does highlight, Catherine, doesn't it, how much we have assumed that the US will protect us in Europe. We've spent decades now underinvesting in our military, allowing the US, particularly in Britain, to buy up huge swathes of our economy. So much of our money leaves the UK every year to American companies. But we've assumed that the US will always be led by somebody who basically sees us as a little brother, somebody that they want to get along with, somebody who appreciates our history and the role we've had in their history. And now we've been shocked into dealing with a president who doesn't think like that at all, or who at least thinks differently on every day of the week. That's perhaps another interpretation of it. What do we do? And the answer is there's nothing we do in the short term, at least. But should we be looking at separating ourselves a little bit more from the US in the long term?
Well, I think we're going to have to, but of course it's very difficult because, as the Prime Minister was saying, we work so closely in terms of defence and security on our nuclear programme and much else with America. So it's not like we could suddenly break ties. I think we do need to, well, defence spending, despite all the protestations, would still seem to be going, to me, at a very slow pace, given the threats that we face. I think there's going to be very difficult choices because we've lived in a world for decades where we felt safe and we've had this peace dividend. And that's gone, and it's going to be very hard. So Alex Younger, the former head of MI6, was talking, I think, yesterday, and he was saying that European countries have been infantilicized by the fact that America has been there since the Second World War. We've known that they're there. They'll come to our aid as they did in World War II. They spend huge amounts on defence, and of course it benefits their economy. Lots of American arms companies doing very well, and that we haven't needed to because we knew that they were there for us, and now it seems perhaps they're not.
America first, that's what he said, didn't he?
Yeah, but I was actually reading the national security strategy that was out in November. America first. It also talks about the sovereignty of states. Greenland, the word Greenland?
Not there.
Not mentioned.
Interesting.
Not mentioned.
But they do mention the fact that they think that Europe is facing civilizational erasure because of mass migration. But there is this inconsistency here because Trump is a strong man. He obviously believes in hard power. But the whole MAGA movement is about national sovereignty and about respecting what is in America's interest and what isn't. And yet, when it comes to Europe, he doesn't seem to have any respect for it at all.
Catherine, thank you very much for that. We're going to go to Chris Hope, who's live in Downing Street, was at that press conference, in fact, asked a question to the Prime Minister. Chris, what was your impression of Donald Trump, of Keir Starmer's on it? Are the Prime Minister under a lot of pressure?
Yes, he really is. I mean, I think on the international stage, it's where Sir Keir Starmer does step up. He finds it obviously complicated, but I think he finds a lot of authority in when he's speaking. I thought that he's on a very, very narrow ledge here. The question I asked him for GBNews viewers is this the moment when we choose between the European Union and the US? Is this a fracturing in the special relationship? Those remarks there from Donald Trump to the Norwegian Prime Minister in a letter saying simply that Donald Trump no longer feels an obligation to think purely of peace are deeply worrying to the Prime Minister. Now, he told us there he doesn't think the US will invade Greenland. He thinks that, well, obviously, tariffs, he says, against allies are completely wrong. The trade war is in no one's interest. And Greenland security is not a justification for economic pressure, the PM said. Being pragmatic doesn't mean being passive, but what does he do next? Will he go to Davos this week to meet with President Trump? No answer. Will he go to the European Union on Thursday, meet with world leaders? We don't know. Will the King go on a state visit to America later this year? Asked twice that question, the Prime Minister failed to answer. It's hard to know where he's got to work out and navigate a way through. He may see himself as the bridge between Europe and America in our different status now post leaving the European Union. He had a jibe at social media. He praised Kevin Badenoch for supporting the government, and a jibe at social media. I asked colleagues of his afterwards whether that meant he's having a go at Nigel Farage or maybe Ed Davey or Zach Polanski. He wouldn't say, but certainly he feels though that he wants this as a moment for statesmen and women to stand up, and he's clearly having a go at those on social media, possibly like Nigel Farage.
All right, Chris, that's Chris Hope, who is our political editor in Downing Street, of which there'll be much more today. In fact, for the next few days, because Denmark's not going away, Greenland's not going away. We've got Trump arriving in the Davos Forum, which is normally, in my view, a talking shop, which is not worth much. But actually, I think they're all going to be there.
Absolutely.
Macron's going to be there.
You can see why they'd want to be now.
Yeah, and I suspect Trump, who did famously say he's... Sorry, I keep calling him Trump. Our Prime Minister famously said he's happier in Davos than Westminster. This is meant not to be going.
No. Well, absolutely.
And he should go.
He should go now because he does need to talk to those European leaders, and perhaps behind the cameras is where the important conversations will be had.
Of course it is. That's where the real... Now, listen, time is ticking away for your chance to win our £85,000 biggest cash giveaway. Here's how you do it.
There's only 2 weeks left to ensure you're in the draw to win our biggest cash prize so far. An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours.
Hi, I'm Jane from Manchester. I won £54,321 with the Great British Giveaway. It is real and it does happen to everyday people like myself. And that one text has just made my life 100% better.
But you have to hurry, as lines close on Friday the 30th of January. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 9th of February. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, coming up next, the lifelong Conservative Andrew Rosendale MP joins Reform UK, becoming their 7th Member of Parliament. Another Tory in the ranks? How do you feel about that?
Well, we're going to that and more with Matthew Torbid and Claire the Constant Muldoon. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Christianity is on the rise in Britain, with the younger generation said to be the driving force. It's great, isn't it? In an effort to preserve the UK's cultural and religious heritage. New polling by a Tier Fund also found that 45% of British adults are planning to attend church this Christmas, which is a sharp rise from recent years. But what other factors might be driving this renewal in faith? Joining me now is the wonderful parliamentary sketch writer, Quentin Lett. Quentin, really good to see you. Thank you for coming on. A brilliant piece in today's Daily Mail. Read every word of it, found myself nodding along. Tell me more about what you've written, why you've written it, and what's happening with Christianity in this country.
Well, good afternoon, Dawn. I would start with that poll that you've just been mentioning. And it said that 45% of adults are intending to go to, this is what it found, 45% of adults intending to go to a service at a church this Christmas. But a more interesting part of that poll is that when you look at the younger people, Gen Z, 60% of them are intending, and it's many fewer, it's half the number for us baby boomers and the silent generation who are older than us. So that suggests, does it not, that something is stirring in the pews. And there was some surprise in some senior church circles recently when Tommy Robinson, a right-wing politician, organised a carol service in Whitehall. Some of the bishops got very twitchy about this, but it does seem anecdotally that a lot of this growth in the church-going is, as you mentioned earlier, young men, but also perfectly possible that quite a lot of them are right-wing. Now, this is presenting the Church of England, which in recent years has started to look a little bit like the Liberal Democrat Party at prayer.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Well, it's 23 minutes past 10. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
We have our panel, the broadcaster and the journalist and broadcaster Claire Muldoon and former Labour advisor Matthew Torbid. I don't know why people keep spelling advisor with an O, do you, Miriam, on our autocue? We're not in America, by the way. We live in Britain. It's advisor with an E. Notes to whoever wrote that. How do you think the Prime Minister did just there?
I was actually surprisingly pleased with his delivery and indeed the content of what he said. I felt he was very measured, and for the first time I saw a glint of leadership in his delivery, not only his delivery but the content of what he actually said. He you know, he didn't answer the question whether or not the King and Queen should actually go to America in 2026 this year in celebration of the 250 years of America. But, you know, going forward, he didn't say that he wouldn't go to Davos. He said that he's very much aligned with America in terms of communication. It's open, it's honest, he said. And also going forward, I think that... I don't think he wanted to turn out and say it, but, you know, Trump is definitely on the march. I mean, he really is. And it's not about the minerals, it's not about whatever, it's about his golden dome. And you think with Trump, when he gets something like that in his head, he goes full throttle for it, as the classic liberal Republican that he is.
I mean, that's a fair point, Matthew. All the commentary I've read, whether it's about the Golden Dome, the minerals, the defence aspect, all those different aspects to it, all the commentators are saying, well, there are other ways Trump could obtain these things. He's already got agreement from the Danish to have as many troops stationed there as he wants. He could buy rights to the minerals. Why is he so desperate to actually own the place?
I think it's in his psyche. He's written before, I think maybe in his book, The Art of the Deal, about... sometimes you've just got to own something, and that's what it's about for him. He wants to be able to say he's got it outright. I think the agreement they have at the moment with Denmark and Greenland is that they have carte blanche. They can expand as much militarily as they wish upon Greenland. The minerals themselves, incredibly hard to get. You've got to have the drills on 24 hours. If you stop them, they begin to almost form like a blancmange-type material, therefore you can't get them out. And I think... I imagine this is more Stephen Miller, the Deputy Chief of Staff. This is his sort of idea that America, clearly after Venezuela, is now entering... they're in the empire business again, you know. They'd like to go back into empire. And I think my concern with all of this is that if China wishes to engage in that sort of stuff, with Russia and other sort of places all across the hemisphere, empires tend to bump into one another eventually when you're continuing to be expansionist, and therefore war is inevitable. And I don't think that's helpful for any of us at the moment.
Should he go to Davos this year? He clearly isn't going because he's quite rightly susceptible to criticism that he's never here, Keir. He's always on trips, isn't he? For once... Probably he should be at Davos, even though it is full of the most appalling, self-serving, chattering class, wealthy, billionaire, all sorts of...
No, I think he should.
But the world's leaders are going to be there.
I think
France, Germany...
He has to be clear why he's going. This is going to cost us up to £6 billion, these tariffs, if they were to go through in the summer. Therefore, I'm going to go and I'm going to negotiate and ensure Donald Trump knows that I mean business.
Which could be good for his premiership if he gets a deal.
Yes, although what I would say is that there's a lot of, you know, and I fell into the trap a little bit that Keir's done really well with Donald Trump. I think the bar was basically Zelensky. Anything above that is OK. And actually, what have we got for all this fawning? We've got tariffs. We've not got anything out of this relationship.
I think our steel tariff is lower than the European Union.
Still 10%.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, really, you'd want no tariff because we have this great relationship.
But then on the flip side, you've got Macron jumping up and down like Rumpelstiltskin in Paris, wanting, you know, to serve South... You know, we've got South America in our pockets for our tariffs. We're fine. We don't need the North America. Let's bazooka them. That bazooka term was actually only for the likes of China. You know, it wasn't meant for our traditional best ally.
Macron is behaving like a president who knows he's only got a limited time in office because he's in a second term.
And he has no domestic power anymore.
No domestic power because he's lost his majority in
Which
Parliament.
Which he threw away himself.
So in a sense, he's a busted flush.
He is. Although I would say, with the slightest caveat, is I wouldn't be going around saying, you know, China are great or whatever. Petite caveat. I wouldn't say China are great. I would question whether America is a reliable ally at the moment now, and therefore should we be
they're not reliable.
reserving...
Trump's
whether it be on Ukraine or other things.
The question is, though, Claire, and you said that Starmer sounded prime ministerial. He's in a very difficult position, sandwiched between the US, who we need, and the Europeans, who we also need and
who we want.
With.
He wants.
He wants to be more. But the question is, what can he do? We sent one soldier to Greenland. We're economically extremely weak. We're not in the EU anymore. So whatever you think of the EU, we can't be part of a collective response. What can he actually do?
He can serve what he wants to do, as he said in his speech. He can serve us, the British people. Now, whether or not you might think that laughable, whether or not you might think it's possible, the plain facts of the matter are that's what he spelt out today. And for the first time, I actually believed him.
What about the visit of the King and Camilla?
It has to go ahead.
Right. Interesting.
I mean, metaphorically and literally speaking, it would trump the whole thing if they were to go. And they must go. They really have to go.
Do you agree with that, Matthew?
Yes, I don't think it's wise for them to be sort of getting involved. I also think it's wise for Starmer
But
to
they
not
are used as a political tool all the time.
Yeah,
That's the point.
Well, yeah, there's no reason why you can't speak to, ensure that Charles says, terrible business, this tariffs, sort of lark, Donald, you shouldn't be doing it. That's up to him. He's very political anyway, we know this. But for Starmer to be wading into it and saying, well, I wouldn't go,
But don't you think, though, the one thing we have learned is that Trump is transactional. He doesn't care about convention. He doesn't care about international law. And there's a strong argument. Why should he care about international law? It hasn't done a great deal of good over recent decades. But if he is transactional, then we should also play that game. And we do know that he loves the royal family, that it gives him a warm feeling to be near the king and queen. Why not just threaten to withdraw the trip until he pulls the tariffs?
I think you're wading into arguments that aren't worth having. I think if the royal family wish to convey their unhappiness, and actually it's going to affect the people of Britain really badly, this.
Yeah.
Trump may well respond to that, and if that is a purposeful tool that we can deploy soft power, fine. I just think I don't like the idea of prime ministers wading into the royals' affairs.
Well, Trump is looking forward to the first dance with Queen Camilla in the refurbed ballroom at the White House, and it will be wall-to-wall coverage for him. He desperately wants it.
Yeah, and he still should have it, because I am not a fan of cancelling anything, and it goes as far as cancelling this trip. And it'd be a huge diplomatic pool and coup for the royal family, for the
and no other country in Europe has that
cachet. They don't. The King and Queen of Spain don't have that cachet.
You know the other thing as well, when the President of the United States has the temperament of a toddler, do we think he would respond positively to this trip being pulled, or would he double down on these sort of things?
Having raised 3 toddlers, I think the answer is uphold your boundary. If you lay down a boundary and then let the toddler walk all over it, they never learn. You've got, however painful it is, you have to follow through on your threats.
You heard it here first. Toddler Trump, right?
Not saying I think he's a toddler. I'm saying that the way that you should respond to toddlers is to stick to your guns.
Yeah, but he's just
never threatening you. Never
actual guns.
No, well, never threaten anything you can't follow through with. And unfortunately, there's little that we can threaten that can make any difference. So perhaps the analogy has fallen down already.
Thank you, panel. Time now for our 60-second news update with Katie Byrne.
Good morning. The headlines at 10:31. Sir Keir Starmer has said this morning that while the UK-US relationship matters profoundly, President Trump's decision to impose tariffs on European nations over Greenland is completely wrong. It's after President Trump imposed a 10% tariff on all goods from Britain and the EU and threatened to increase it to 25% unless he's allowed to buy the Danish territory.
A trade war is in no one's interest. And my job is always to act in the UK's national interest.
Elsewhere, Prince Harry has arrived in court this morning as his trial against the publisher of the Daily Mail gets underway. The Duke of Sussex is one of 7 claimants suing associated newspapers over allegations of serious privacy breaches. The publisher strongly denies all claims. At least 39 people have been killed and more than 100 injured after 2 high-speed trains collided and one derailed in southern Spain. A train travelling from Malaga to Madrid carrying some 300 passengers came off the rails near Cordoba at 7:45 local time last night. And Andrew Rosendale has resigned from the Conservative Party and his position as Shadow Foreign Minister and defected to Reform UK. It comes in the wake of both Robert Jenrick and Nadeem Zahawi also defecting to the party. Those are the headlines for now. More news at 11 o'clock.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB Digital Radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Coming up next, police have arrested more than 100 wanted criminals thanks to live facial recognition pilot. Would you welcome a wider rollout, or is it infringement of our civil liberties? It's Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Another cloudy day to come, some outbreaks of rain and drizzle, but there will be some sunshine around too, and temperatures near average but mild in the south once more. So we have two bands of weather bringing rain, so cloud and rain across Northern Ireland, western Scotland this morning, and another one affecting much of England and Wales, giving some low cloud, misty, murky conditions through the day, outbreaks of rain and drizzle. But in between these, there is some sunnier breaks, parts of Scotland, western fringes of England and Wales, and perhaps even southeast England seeing some sunnier breaks too, and temperatures generally similar to recent days between 7 and 9 degrees. Into the evening time, those weather bands not really going very far. So central parts of Scotland, a dry end to the day, but turning quite chilly under clear skies. To the east and west, rather cloudy with some patchy rain, and those bands of cloud and rain stretching south into parts of Northern Ireland, Northern England, so a cloudy end to the day here. Much of the rest of England and Wales also cloudy, rain and drizzle, hill fog in places, but a few cloud breaks from time to time through the evening. And very little changes overnight as well. We may start to see the bands of cloud pushing a little further north and eastwards as we go through the night, allowing some clearer spells towards parts of Wales and the West Country ahead of the next weather system, which starts to come in for Tuesday. So temperatures under the cloud holding up 4, 5, 6, 7 degrees. Any clearer spells a little lower, but most of us frost-free to start Tuesday. The weather systems move out the way into the North Sea as we go through Tuesday morning, allowing it to become a little dry and brighter for a time. But another weather system bringing cloud and rain and stronger winds to Northern Ireland, western fringes of southwest England and Wales as we move through into the afternoon. Elsewhere, generally dry, a little breezy, but some sunnier spells and temperatures once more up to around 10 or 11 degrees.
Thank you, Britain, for making GB News Radio such a huge success. Whether you're in the car, on the go, or listening at home, thank you for choosing us as your radio station.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The M73 northbound off-slip at Junction 2A at Gartcosh is closed for essential roadworks, so follow the signed diversion. In Lancashire, the M55 westbound exit slip at Junction 1 has one lane closed after a crash. In Nottinghamshire, the A1 southbound between the A46 and the A52 is down to one lane following a collision. In Kent, the M25 anti-clockwise entry slip at Junction 2 from the A2 westbound is shut after an incident. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast between Shrewsbury, Stafford and Wolverhampton, plus cross-country between Banbury and Oxford, are disrupted. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back. It's coming up to 22:11 and you're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
So, Thames Valley Police is one of 7 forces rolling out facial recognition to help catch criminals.
Well, some people fear that the technology is being used to turn Britain into a surveillance state, but Thames Valley Police believe monitoring people in this way is proportionate and justified.
We've sent our national reporter Will Godley to Milton Keynes, where it is being used for the first time. Have a listen to Will's report.
Shoppers going about their everyday business. But for the first time, they're being watched by police.
When someone walks through the zone of recognition, as we call it, well, what happens is what we call boxing, where their face will be boxed and you'll see there are various metrics along the side of it.
This is Thames Valley Police's new tool to help them catch criminals. Well, the live facial recognition cameras are currently comparing my face to a watch list of 3,200 known criminals in the area. If I'm on that list, it will ping me. If I'm not, I'm free to go. Thankfully, I wasn't a match, and so my data gets deleted. But when there is, police officers need to decide if they're staring at a suspect.
It's our job basically to compare the two, make sure that we're happy that that is the right person, and from then we'll get the engagement officers, the officers you see around, just to go make that engagement with them to say, hello, you've been flagged up on facial recognition, and go from there.
10 vans like these are currently being rolled out in 7 forces across England. They're already being used in London, where 580 arrests were made in the year to summer. But in Milton Keynes, the van is here for the first time.
I think it's a really good idea. I think the more we can bring people to justice, the better.
If it catches criminals, that's good.
I think there are many times that the state misuses powers, and I think that we can be dragged into things that we don't really wish to be.
I think it's a good thing because I have got nothing to hide, so it doesn't bother me, but I can imagine other people wouldn't like it.
Some people say the technology is an invasion of privacy, and in a few weeks the High Court will decide whether its use is legal. Amid fears these cameras are turning Britain into a surveillance state.
If it's a police state, I'd stop everyone that walked through that gate, put a barrier up and then check everyone's name against the system. That's not how it works. This is really targeting the criminals. So actually it's a really good use of resource because it's engaging with people that we wouldn't normally look to engage who are wanted as a suspect or wanted by the courts.
The new technology is part of Thames Valley Police's wider crackdown on serious organised crime.
Police of the world, open the door, do it now!
Last week they carried out 11 dawn raids and made 55 arrests over 3 days. The force hope by using facial recognition technology they can cut crime further, while still meeting concerns over how it's used.
It has to be proportionate, it has to be justified, we can't just roll it out, there has to be an authority granted, so we're not just going to use it, every day just for the sake of it. It will be based on intelligence and information, so we're not going to be speculatively using it. If we believe that we've got an issue, if we believe that it will be fit for purpose in that area, then it gets used.
These cameras may be controversial, but for the officers who use them, a crucial new way to fight crime. Will Godley, GB News.
Well, we're joined now by the Legal and Policy Officer at Big Brother Watch, Jasleen Chagger. Jasleen, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. This is a great initiative in fighting crime, would you not agree?
Not at all. I'm hugely concerned by the rollout of facial recognition technology on our high streets and in our cities. You have to remember that the way this technology works is to scan the face of every single person who walks by the camera and take a biometric map of their face. And that's information that's as sensitive as their fingerprint or their DNA. You can't imagine a situation in which it would be acceptable for the police to just take the cheek swabs of everyone who walks by just in case they're who they're looking for. And for some reason, the police seem to think it's acceptable just because it's done remotely through facial recognition technology.
Jasleen, isn't that for the good? And we just have to, much as we want to protect our civil liberties, is not the war on crime more important?
We all want dangerous criminals to be caught and to be off our streets, but you have to remember the way this technology works is not targeted and intelligence-led. It's like saying we're looking for a needle in a haystack, and in order to find them, we're going to look through every piece of hay. There's no requirement for the police to actually go and investigate the people on the watch list first, no requirement for them to go and knock on their doors. Instead, they can add up to 15,000 people on watch lists and scan the entirety of the population just to make their lives easier. It's lazy policing at best.
But Jasleen, it may be lazy policing at best, but would those 100 criminals have been caught without this technology?
I think that the public are sort of being sold this false choice between having to live in crime-ridden neighbourhoods and having to accept facial recognition technology. In reality, it's not a binary. We shouldn't be replacing trained officers with AI. And we've seen, when we've gone to deployments, the crimes literally being committed around the corner and police looking at their computers and waiting for an alarm to be flagged. And so there's a real question about how efficient this technology is as well over normal traditional policing methods.
Jasleen, are there any circumstances in which you would support this use of the technology? I don't know, for example, at a football match where there was intelligence that there was going to be violence or something like that?
I think that there is a use case for retrospective facial recognition technology. So that's where a crime has actually been committed and the police use footage from the scene of the crime and run facial recognition back on that to identify the people who have committed that offence. And that's different because that's actually where there is a suspicion of wrongdoing. To treat the entirety of the population as suspects by default can never be proportionate. So live facial recognition has no place on our high streets.
In a sense, haven't we had this for ages with the explosion in use of CCTV cameras, which are everywhere now, Jasleen, everywhere. And most people, I think, are reassured to think they are there.
Well, you're right that we're one of the most surveilled places on the planet in terms of CCTV to population ratio. But facial recognition is quite different from CCTV because it's taking a biometric measurement of someone's face. So it's uniquely identifying them. And that, like I say, is information that's as sensitive as your fingerprints or your DNA. And what's so unique about facial recognition is that it can be done remotely without your knowledge or your consent. So that creates a really chilling effect where, for example, if it's in CCTV cameras on your high street, you're going about your daily life, you don't even know if you're being subjected to an identity check. And that really changes the nature of policing in this country and our consent-based policing system.
All right, Jasleen, thank you for that. That's Jasleen Chagar from Big Brother Watch. I mean, my instincts is to hate this technology, but my other instinct is we have got a crime wave at the length and breadth of the country. Would those 100 scallies in Croydon have been caught?
Yeah, would the police have made more of an effort to catch them in traditional methods if this wasn't available? I mean, yeah, I think it's chilling to use this technology like this, but the problem with any technology is once it's been invented, it's never going to be uninvented, and with every other kind of technology we've seen, you just see expansion after expansion after expansion.
It's on its way.
It is. I don't like being surveilled at all. And these, what they call the Ring doorbells, where, my editors just pointed out that I do have 12 cameras on me right now, by choice.
Yeah, you're being paid for that. But you know, I don't have ring bell technology on my front door. Do you?
We do. I'm not sure it is a good idea. And when I was an MP and I used to go door knocking a lot, obviously, I had one slightly disturbing incident where I knocked on a man's door and he came to the door and I started talking to him. He said, "Oh, yeah, you came a few weeks ago, didn't you?" He said, "I saw you from South Africa." I was like, "What?" And basically, I'd pressed his doorbell and it had alerted he'd got an app on his phone. And so he'd stood there watching me at his door. He didn't say anything.
Peculiar.
So he knew that I'd been before because I just find the whole thing rather strange.
But could he have spoken to you via the app
I think
from
so.
South Africa?
Some of them you can. I don't know.
Gosh.
Some of them you can. But too many cameras, she says, sitting in front of 12.
Now up next, horror strikes at a high-speed train crash in southern Spain. At least 39 people have been killed. We're going to bring you the latest on that. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. Storm Harry, named by the Spanish Met Service, will bring some heavy rain, thunderstorms, strong winds to central parts of the Mediterranean over the next few days. Dry across Turkey and Greece on Tuesday, but rather chilly. Wet weather across Italy into the Balearics and then eastern Spain as well. Some snow over the higher ground. Dry towards Madeira, down into the Canaries, Tenerife, 18 degrees, sunny spells, where it remains warm over the next few days here.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What we're going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Allow.
Stop.
You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Well, at least 39 people have died, dozens more have been injured in a train collision in southern Spain.
Carriages on a Madrid-bound train derailed and crossed over onto the opposite tracks, colliding with an oncoming train. This was on Sunday evening.
The Spanish Civil Guard have declared this incident to be the country's worst rail crash in more than a decade.
Well, joining us now is a journalist at the newspaper The Olive Press, Ben Pawlowski. Ben, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. It is absolutely tragic news. Do the authorities have any idea yet what caused the incident?
Hi there, thanks for having me on. At the moment, simply no. As you said, really quite horrible, devastating scenes overnight in southern Spain, where not one but two high-speed trains have derailed. At least 39 dead at the moment, hundreds injured, and we expect that death count, unfortunately, to rise. At the moment, the cause of it is unknown. We have the first train, which was travelling from Malaga to Madrid, derailed. But the Transport Minister, Oscar Puente, has said that the train derailed on a completely straight piece of track, which is very unusual. Incidents like this normally happen on a bend at high speeds. So there's confusion about that. Also, that stretch of railway was actually replaced in May last year, so it's not very old. And also, that train had its last inspection just 4 days before the crash. So currently a lot of confusion, a lot of devastation, and I'm sure a very long investigation to come.
And I imagine, Ben, because of where it was between Malaga and Madrid, a very busy line, I imagine.
Yeah, Spain's high-speed train network is often the envy of much of Europe. You know, take a different part of the network, Madrid to Barcelona. You can do that in about 2.5 hours. That's a journey.
Amazing.
Comparable in distance for, say, Brighton to about Inverness. So Malaga to Madrid is a very, very popular line. This obviously happens Sunday evening. People who've had weekends away, either Malaga, people from Malaga in Madrid, Madrid's people going to Malaga. So very busy. Estimates about 400 people were on the two trains that were on board, 300 of those heading back to Madrid. 100 of those on the separate train, which was going to Huelva, also in Andalusia. So it's a very, very busy, very popular line, which only adds to the devastation, really.
Do we know anything yet, Ben, about the casualties, who they are? Were they, when you said probably some of them were on their way back from their weekend away in Malaga?
As of yet, we only have the numbers. We don't know. We don't have any details on particular identities. I'm sure this will also be a line that will be used by Brits, as we know there's a big Brit expat community in southern Spain. So I'm sure the British Foreign Office and the embassy in Madrid are keeping an eye on what's occurring. We've had some details from eyewitnesses, lots of them people, as I say, who've had the weekend away and are just returning ahead of work on Monday, recounting scenes of real horror, shaking.
Ben, I'm so sorry, we are going to have to leave it there, but thank you so much for joining us this morning. That's Ben Pulaski from the Olive Press, and just a tragic incident, Andrew.
Terrible, appalling. And we will keep you up to date on that. That is Spain's worst rail disaster in more than a decade. Still ahead, Trump. Is he quaking in his boots after Sir Keir Starmer's less than scathing words this morning? This is Britain's Newsroom, Britain's favourite morning show on GB News.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Another cloudy day to come, some outbreaks of rain and drizzle, but there will be some sunshine around too, and temperatures near average but mild in the south once more. So we have two bands of weather bringing rain, so cloud and rain across Northern Ireland, western Scotland this morning, and another one affecting much of England and Wales, giving some low cloud, misty, murky conditions through the day, outbreaks of rain and drizzle. But in between these, there is some sunnier breaks, parts of Scotland, western fringes of England and Wales, and perhaps even southeast England seeing some sunnier breaks too, and temperatures generally similar to recent days between 7 and 9 degrees. Into the evening time, those weather bands not really going very far. So central parts of Scotland, a dry end to the day, but turning quite chilly under clear skies. To the east and west, rather cloudy with some patchy rain, and those bands of cloud and rain stretching south into parts of Northern Ireland, Northern England, so a cloudy end to the day here. Much of the rest of England and Wales also cloudy, rain and drizzle, hill fog in places, but a few cloud breaks from time to time through the evening. And very little changes overnight as well. We may start to see the bands of cloud pushing a little further north and eastwards as we go through the night, allowing some clearer spells towards parts of Wales and the West Country ahead of the next weather system, which starts to come in for Tuesday. So temperatures under the cloud holding up 4, 5, 6, 7 degrees. Any clearer spells a little lower, but most of us frost-free to start Tuesday. The weather systems move out the way into the North Sea as we go through Tuesday morning, allowing it to become a little dry and brighter for a time. But another weather system bringing cloud and rain and stronger winds to Northern Ireland, western fringes of southwest England and Wales as we move through into the afternoon. Elsewhere, generally dry, a little breezy, but some sunnier spells and temperatures once more up to around 10 or 11 degrees.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours.
Hi, I'm Jane. I won £54,321 with the Great British Giveaway. Oh, definitely please enter. It is real, and that one text has just made my life 100% better.
For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good morning, 11 o'clock on Monday, the 19th of January, live across the UK, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Under President Trump, as under previous presidents, we're determined to keep that relationship strong, constructive and focused on results.
Starmer also had a message for Donald Trump.
A trade war is in no one's interest. And my job is always to act in the UK's national interest.
Use of tariffs is completely wrong, Sir Keir Starmer tells Donald Trump in comments which could threaten that delicate relationship with Donald Trump. It's going to be a huge week for Keir Starmer.
At least 39 people have been confirmed dead after 2 trains collided at high speed in Spain. We're going to bring you the latest.
I don't want to fight Nigel Farage. We should be working with him. So what I want is Conservatives, whether they're in Reform or whether they're in our party, to try to work together so we get rid of Labour.
Well, that was the former Shadow Foreign Minister Andrew Rosindell speaking 3 months ago. He's now defected to Reform UK, becoming the party's 7th MP.
You have to choose now between Davos or Westminster.
Davos.
Keir Starmer is a leader of the opposition. Well, world leaders are gathering in Davos this week for the World Economic Forum. Donald Trump will be there. So will Mark Carney, the Canadian Prime Minister, the French President, we think will be there too. Nigel Farage making a first visit. The theme this year, a spirit of dialogue. So why isn't the Prime Minister there?
We'll get the engagement officers, the officers you see around, just to go make that engagement with them to say, hello, you've been flagged up on facial recognition, and go from there.
Are we living in Big Brother Britain? Well, police have arrested more than 100 wanted criminals using facial recognition cameras. Do you agree with them being used on your high street?
I was talking only last week, Miriam, to a very senior Tory and said the next defector without doubt will be Andrew Rosindell. Not sure when it will be. He agreed that there was nothing that anybody could do to stop him going.
And there was a lot of Twitter speculation over the weekend, led by, I think, a 15-year-old journalist who is now gloating the fact that he got it right. But like you say, in some way, it's not surprising. I do wonder if Robert Jenrick's defection will open the floodgates, combined with the fact that Nigel Farage has now said that no Tory MPs or former Tory MPs will be welcome after, was it the 7th of May?
Yeah, that's right. And of course, there is still speculation about a Labour defection this week. A lot of people have been talking about, will it be Kate Hoey? She was a Labour MP for many years. She was a Brexiteer. She was always, to my mind, rather an unusual fit in the Labour Party. Now in the House of Lords. Gossip we're hearing is it's not her. So who could it be?
Who could it be? Will there be a household name or not?
I suspect
But it
not.
is really interesting looking at the commentary about Robert Jenrick's defection, because some people saying it's just personal ambition, he saw which way the wind was blowing, he wants to be part of a winning team. But other people pointing out that, you know, his politics haven't changed, a lot of people's politics haven't changed. It's just that the Conservative Party has failed to deliver a Conservative vision.
I think his politics have changed a bit.
Well,
I
that's
think
true,
he's been
actually.
on quite a journey.
I think he was radicalised by being in the Home Office as seeing what a terrible job
he was
they
a
were doing.
big David Cameron supporter. He said that Brexit would be a dystopian Britain. He's been on quite a journey, and he was deplored what Suella Braverman said as Home Secretary about the invasion of migrants in southern England. If you remember, that was only a few years ago.
I can't remember his reaction to
He
that.
said, I would never use language like that, except I think a lot of people watching and listening to this programme would agree with Suella Braverman.
I think he probably does use language like that now. Anyway, it's yes, an interesting time in British politics. We'd love to know what you think. Send your views and post your comments to gbnews.com/your say.
First headlines with Katie Bone.
Miriam, Andrew, thank you and good morning. The headlines at 4 minutes past 11. Sir Keir Starmer has said today that while the UK-US relationship matters profoundly, President Trump's decision to impose tariffs on European nations over Greenland is completely wrong. The Prime Minister went on to say that any decision on Greenland belongs to the people of Greenland and Denmark alone, and that the right way to approach a matter of this seriousness is through calm discussion with allies. In a phone call to the President last night, it's understood Sir Keir Starmer reminded the President that security in the High North is a priority for all NATO allies. NATO members have held an emergency meeting and agreed the President's demands undermine transatlantic relations, risking a dangerous downward spiral. The Prime Minister said that defending the values of our country is important.
Alliances endure because they're built on respect and partnership, not pressure. That is why I said the use of tariffs against allies is completely wrong. It is not the right way to resolve differences within an alliance. Such measures hurt British workers, British businesses, and the British economy. And that is why I've been so clear on this issue. A trade war is in no one's interest. And my job is always to act in the UK's national interest.
Elsewhere, Prince Harry has arrived in court this morning as his trial against the publisher of the Daily Mail gets underway. The Duke of Sussex is one of 7 claimants, including singer Elton John and actor Elizabeth Hurley, suing associated newspapers over allegations of serious privacy breaches dating back 30 years. The publisher strongly denies all claims, saying they are preposterous and without foundation. A spokesman for Prince Harry has told GB News that the Duke of Sussex is confident and ready ahead of the trial. This is the 3rd major legal battle Prince Harry has fought against a UK newspaper group, having won substantial damages and an apology from the publisher of The Mirror and an admission of unlawful activities in an out-of-court settlement with the publisher of The Sun. At least 39 people have been killed and more than 100 injured after 2 high-speed trains collided and one derailed in southern Spain. A train travelling from Malaga to Madrid, carrying some 300 passengers, came off the rails near Cordoba at 7:45 local time last night. 75 people remain in hospital and 15 are in a serious condition. The Spanish Transport Minister said it was a truly strange incident, adding that it occurred on a flat stretch of track that had been renovated in May. Witnesses of the crash have described it as a mangled mess. Andrew Rosendale has resigned from the Conservative Party and defected to Reform UK. Mr Rosendale, who's been the MP for Romford for 25 years, first joined the Conservative Party when he was 14 years old. In quitting the party, he's also resigned from the position of Shadow Foreign Minister. Nigel Farage cited the Tory party's so-called hypocritical position over the Chagos Islands as his reason for defecting. He also welcomed the move, describing Mr Rosendale as a great patriot. But a Conservative source accused the Romford MP of stabbing his friends and colleagues in the back. Labour Party Chair Anna Turley says it's evidence of a failed and dying Tory party. Robert Jenrick, who also defected last week, told GB News Breakfast that more Conservatives will follow.
Absolutely delighted that Andrew has chosen to do this. You know, your viewers may know him, great constituency MP, very true patriot, superb addition to the Reform team. Look, if there are other Conservative MPs who share the values and the principles of Reform, who want to turn the country around, fix it, then I'm sure Nigel would welcome into the party. But he has said, and he's absolutely right to do so, that this is going to have to happen quickly. After the May elections, then the door closes and reform moves on.
Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now, a quick look at the markets.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Here's a quick snapshot of those markets. The pound will buy you $1.3407 and €1.1531. The price of gold is £3,479.44 per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is at 10,183 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Well, we're back. This is Britain's Newsroom, live across the UK on GB News with Andrew and Miriam.
Well, let's take a look what you've been saying on gbnews.com/your say. David says, what actually was the point of that emergency statement by Sir Keir Starmer? It was pathetic, talking about the press conference this morning, 9:15, in response to Trump's threat of tariffs.
That's harsh.
Yes, it is a bit. Bill says, on this facial recognition cameras, how does it work with face coverings? That's a very good point.
Yeah.
That would be one way to evade police if you didn't want your face to be spotted.
Well, it's not illegal to wear a face covering.
It's not. Whether that's a religious one or a face mask that we wore in COVID, if you were trying to evade the law, that would be quite a good way of doing it.
Right, yeah.
Andrew says, if the last few governments hadn't broken the country and allowed tens of thousands of criminals in, maybe we wouldn't need facial ID. Yeah, potentially. I mean, the problem is, the longer you let a problem go on, the more radical the solution you need to fix it.
This technology was inevitable. It was inevitably going to happen. We've got it now. It's going to be rolled out. It's going to be used. And I'm afraid Civil Liberties Brigade won't like it, but it will be a very valuable aid in the fight against crime. However, you have to caveat it. Sometimes it's wrong. Yeah. They don't get it right. It's like that stupid VAR thing in football.
Yes.
Sometimes it gets it wrong. It's a similar form of technology, isn't it?
Yes, and if it discourages the police from doing proper, traditional, reliable investigations, then that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
But some of this, we just have no choice over. I mean, if you've been to the EU since, I think, October, you will have had your fingerprints taken.
Yes.
And now all EU countries have all my biometric data. There's nothing I can do about it.
No, absolutely. Now, this morning, Nigel Farage welcomed his newest member to Reform UK. No, we're not talking about Robert Jenrick. It is Andrew Rosendale, MP for Romford. He was the only Tory gain in the 2001 election, the only gain. Right? The Tories gained one seat after the Blair landslide in 97. There was a second landslide in 2001, and it was Andrew Rosendale in Romford. And at one point, he had a majority of about 25,000, which is now down to below 5, I think.
And must be one of the longest-serving MPs in Parliament.
Yeah, he is.
Wow.
So here he is talking to Nigel Farage a moment ago.
Thank you, Nigel. Great to be with you. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, another shadow cabinet member has joined.
So we've lost the link to that, but I was just checking. Andrew Rosendale's majority last time was down to 1,463. Reform got nearly 10,000 votes. Now, in his pomp, he had a majority of 18,000 in 2019. So all those Tory changes and reform, a majority of it now from 18,000 to 2,500. We're going to go back now to listen to Nigel Farage with his newest MP, Andrew Rosendale.
Used to do so.
So I only ever got involved in politics because I love my country, and it was Margaret Thatcher that inspired me to join the Conservative Party at the age of 14. So for me, giving away His Majesty's territories to a foreign country, which is denying the Chagossian people their right of self-determination, at the same time undermining our British security and paying billions of pounds for doing so, when sadly it was a Conservative government that started this whole policy in the first place. I just feel ashamed, and it's a total failure of the British state to protect British interests. The Conservative Party and the Labour Party have played a part in this, and I can't put my name to it, ever. And I repudiate what has happened, And that's one of the reasons I decided this weekend to join Nigel and Reform UK. This man has to be our next Prime Minister because our country needs reform, it needs change, and we need to rescue our nation from the calamity of this socialist government.
Very good. Questions?
Mr Farage, can I ask you firstly, on Greenland, do you think Donald Trump is bluffing when he talks about a tariff for nations such as the UK? And Mr Rosendale, can I ask you, have any Conservative MPs since your defection reached out and are seeking your counsel on potentially doing the same?
Whether Trump's bluffing or not is always difficult to tell, but to use economic threats against the country that's been considered to be your closest ally for over 100 years is not the kind of thing we would expect. It's wrong, it's bad, it would be very, very hurtful to us. Now, I think we're in a position where we can negotiate. You know, we're not tied by European Union trade rules. That does give us an advantage in these negotiations, but I would just say this, I'm all for Trump taking out enemies of the West, Maduro, the Iranian regime, but if he falls out with his own allies and leaves America isolated, that would be a very bad place to be. So I'm worried about it, I'm concerned about it. I've always been a supporter of the president since way before he got elected first time, but I will be having some words with the American administration in Davos on Wednesday on this issue. It's wrong.
So I have many, many friends in the Conservative Party, many colleagues, a lot of messages I've had, met a few this morning, and they've all been incredibly kind. They understand why I've done this. I have no malice towards my friends in the Conservative Party. I will say this though, I have argued for months and months and months that we need to unite the right. We need to get rid of this Labour government and we need to bring people of like mind together to ensure that the next election we get a right-wing government or right-of-centre government in power with Nigel as Prime Minister. And I know that my colleagues, my former Conservative Party colleagues, are welcome to support what I think is a plan to rescue the country. That's what it should be about. It's not about party politics. Actually, the main goal is to rescue Britain, and that's why I've made the decision I have.
I think with Robert Jenrick and with Andrew Rosendale, what you're seeing is the centre-right uniting, because so much of the current parliamentary Conservative Party is one nation, centrist. I mean, frankly, half of them would fit very neatly into the Lib Dems. And when it comes to policy, well, some will argue, well, Kem is now saying all the things, Nigel, that you will agree with. Well, there's some truth in that, but they didn't do any of them in 14 years in power, despite repeated manifesto promises. So it really is an issue of trust. So I believe what we're doing is genuinely uniting the centre-right. In the last few days, we're in a significant step towards that.
Mr Farage, ITV News. If President Trump levies tariffs over Greenland, should the UK retaliate?
I think to retaliate would probably hurt us even more. We have to negotiate, and it's one area where, with Brexit, we are free to negotiate directly. We did so relatively successfully compared to our European counterparts earlier in the year. And look, we know that Trump does use a degree of bluff. It's part of his negotiating tactic. You can never completely predict what he will do, but no, I don't think reciprocal tariffs at this stage would make any sense at all.
Do you condemn him?
I think he's wrong. I think what he's done is wrong. I don't think you turn on your allies. By the way, I completely understand strategically why Greenland matters so much. But I've just said to Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, if Greenland matters because of worries about Russia, worries about China, well, wake up and smell the coffee on Diego Garcia. I mean, been described to me as the most important US military base in the world outside of mainland America. And so they need to wake up and smell the coffee on that one too. Thank you.
You probably have better contacts, better relations with Donald Trump than most people in the House of Commons. Would you pick up the phone and speak to him directly? And Andrew Rosendale, you talk about Margaret Thatcher, even your office is called the Margaret Thatcher House. Do you think she now feel more at home with the UK? Well,
there's little doubt And in the European elections, she did vote UKIP a few years ago. Everyone knows that to be true. Look, we're not in the period of Thatcherism. We're in a different time. She was there at a moment in time to cure the illness of the British economy, above all. The set of social problems we've got now are far worse, actually, than anything she faced back in 1979.
And on Donald Trump, will you speak to him directly?
I will be going to USA House in Davos on Wednesday, and I'll be meeting members of the administration. And I will say very clearly what I've just said. This is not the way to treat your best friends. This is not the way to get support. I'd love to see a successful economic partnership between Greenland and America. And I hope and pray that's where we end up.
Did you watch Keir Starmer's speech this morning?
I did.
What did you make of his message to the president?
Well, what he says in public and maybe what he says in private are two different things. So let's see. I felt the Prime Minister's instinctive response to say this was completely wrong was actually the correct thing to say. But let's see how tough we can be. Let's see how good a negotiator he is. Some of the evidence when it comes to the EU reset and the Chagos deal is our Prime Minister is not a born negotiator, and that would be my concern. Thank you. Any more?
So on Margaret Thatcher, well, I have to say, Nigel, if Margaret Thatcher was here today, you'd be out of a job.
Well, that may be true.
Because there wouldn't be reform and there wouldn't be Conservative. There'd be one united right in this country. Sadly, the Conservative Party's moved away, I think, from the kind of thing she fought for, and we've become too mushy, too centrist, and not radical enough to deal with the serious problems our nation faces. And I think if she was here today, and I would dare not speak for her, but I think she would do what was right for Britain. And if it meant working cross-party to save this country from socialism, that's exactly what she would do.
And how did Kerry Blake not react when you told her you were leaving?
I haven't spoken to Kemi. I wish her all the best. I do personally. I wish
you hope she has a terrible time.
I wish her all the best personally. I have no animosity to any of my colleagues, my former colleagues in the Conservative Party, but we have to be realistic. Our country needs change. Proper change, not swapping Labour to Conservative and backwards and forwards. It doesn't work. We need something radical, something new, something that will rescue our country. This is the man who's going to do that.
There are two schools of thought here. One is the Kerry Badenoch school of thought. Front page, Sunday Telegraph yesterday, Britain isn't broken. And then there's the reform analysis, which is Britain is broken. They want to fiddle with the plumbing. We think we need a brand new boiler and a complete new system. We think the country needs radical change. And unless you recognise how broken it is, you can't begin, it seems to me, to fix it. And that's now the big divide.
Yeah, and Nigel's right. And this is exactly what Robert Jenrick's been arguing.
So that's the latest addition to the reform ranks. Andrew Rosendale MP, who was first elected in 2001, as I said before, the only Conservative gain in that 2001 election in Romford. He had a majority once of 18,500, slipped to 1,500 last time, and he was telling people, Miriam, only last week, he cannot hold his seat with the Conservative Party, so would defect to reform. So this has caused no surprise to Tory HQ.
Well, we're now joined by our political editor, Chris Hope, who's live from Westminster. Chris, good morning. What a week it's been in politics. It already seems a long time since that Robert Jenrick defection, but it was only a few days ago. Obviously, Andrew Rosendale, not such a big name as Robert Jenrick, but as Andrew's just been saying, he has been an MP for an enormous length of time. Do you think the floodgates have now opened in terms of defections from the Conservatives to reform?
Yes, morning Andrew, morning Miriam. I think the day is about 2 hours old, and Andrew Rosendale hadn't actually resigned or quit the party until about 13 hours ago. So it's fast, comes at you quite fast, politics nowadays, all live on GBNews, of course. Well, this deadline was imposed by that man on the screen, Nigel Farage. He said anyone who wants to come across to our party, currently a politician, has until May the 7th or the drawbridge is pulled up. Andrew Rosendale is the first one to respond to that after, of course, Robert Jenrick came across last Thursday. I was struck by some of those remarks there. Andrew Rosendale says about coming back, I wish her all the best, but he hasn't further spoken to her. I think his defection, as Andrew was saying earlier, was one which Westminster had priced in. The Romford seat is split between the Tories and Reform. He has gone towards Reform for quite a few months now. Viewers might remember back at the party conference, the Tory conference back in October, he was the MP who pushed very hard for the party to play the national anthem at the end of its conference. That's where he stands. He wears the Union Jack as a flag, as a proud flag. It is what he believes in. He's a Thatcherite Tory, known as Rosa in Westminster. He's an obvious one. That's 7 Tory MPs. Will we get to 10 by the end of the week? We'll wait and see. You heard there Nigel Farage there. I was really struck by the remarks about the crisis over Greenland in the special relationship. He said there, didn't he, those remarks were wrong, bad and very, very hurtful. He's worried and concerned. He says in Davos on Wednesday he'll have words with the US administration. He's going to somewhere called US House in Davos. That will be a kind of pavilion constructed for Davos. We know that Donald Trump flies in there on Wednesday with his team, and he'll say to him, or say to his team, this is not the way to treat your best friend. And it goes back to what Andrew was saying earlier. Is it now a risk? Because as of a few hours ago, we were told Keir Starmer is not going to Davos. Hang on, if you're not going, is Nigel Farage now your ambassador? Why is he going and you're not going? He's putting himself in place of Keir Starmer by going to Davos. That is not a good look, Prime Minister, I would humbly suggest.
Interesting, Chris, because he's damned if he does, he's damned if he doesn't, because he gets a lot of flack for being never here, Keir. But this seems to be one opportunity when he should be going to Davos.
I think
he could do it in a day.
Well, and also there's a meeting of EU leaders in Brussels on Thursday. I think I was lucky enough to be at that press conference earlier. I've never known a more grave press conference with the Prime Minister. It felt extremely, extremely serious, very worrying. I think he met the moment there, and you heard that from Nigel Farage, even one of his real opponents there, saying he thought the remarks by Sir Keir Starmer were correct.
Yeah. All right, Chris.
Fascinating stuff. Thank you, Chris. I'm sure we'll have more on that as the day progresses. But time now for your chance to win £85,000 in our biggest cash giveaway to date. Tax-free cash to spend on anything you like this year. Don't miss out. Here are all the details you need.
There's only 2 weeks left to ensure you're in the draw to win our biggest cash prize so far. An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours.
Hi, I'm Jane from Manchester. I won £54,321 with the Great British Giveaway. It is real and it does happen to everyday people like myself. And that one text has just made my life 100% better.
But you have to hurry, as lines close on Friday the 30th of January. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. The winner may be contacted live on GB News week commencing 9th of February. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, we're joined now again by our panel, the journalist and broadcaster Claire Muldoon and former Labour advisor Matthew Torbett here in the studio. Welcome back to you both.
Is that a big coup for Nigel?
Do you know what? I don't think it really is. I was discussing this with Matthew, and I wanted to bring this up, is the lack of by-elections, OK, after all of these defections. And I'm sorry, but people who voted for these MPs that have now defected, we can't actually say crossed over the floor, because they haven't. They've just shifted along. I think but they didn't vote for reform. They voted for the Conservatives. They voted for their MPs being Conservative to do the work that they wanted them to do, and they're not.
And
it's a difficult one.
I just say you could be no
Why
doubt.
is it difficult,
Andrew
Miriam?
It's difficult because constitutionally you vote for the person, not the party, and also because parties very much change their standpoint during the course of the Parliament. So I remember, for example, in the last Parliament, obviously I was elected as a Conservative MP, but nowhere in the manifesto was we will lock down the country and try to force you to be vaccinated. Now, I rebelled on all those issues, and lots of my Conservative Party members didn't like that, but my point was, well, OK, I was elected as a Conservative, but does that mean I should do everything the party says, even if it wasn't in the manifesto? And the manifesto that the Conservatives stood on in 2024 is entirely different now to the policies that Kemi Badenoch is now espousing. So I don't think it is as clear-cut as that.
Fundamentally, constitutionally, I think it is.
It's not constitutional. You do elect a person, you don't elect a party.
I think it should be the fact that the MPs have got enough boots in the ground through their local councils that they can actually get the feedback they need in order to lead their electorate and lead the council and lead the part of the UK that they're in. I don't think this stands very well at all.
Is Rosendale's defection a measure of how far the way the Conservative Party has moved from its Thatcher roots, or the fact that he's just knows he's going to lose his seat next time? Because if I tell you, Mrs Thatcher opened his constituency office a few years ago, which is called Margaret Thatcher House.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, you do not get a more devoted Thatcherite than... he's even more devoted to her than me.
Oh, my God.
That's saying something.
No, I think... He has a shrine of equivalent size.
It probably does.
That is the charge I hear from Conservatives, is that we just need to go back to being a proper Conservative party. At the moment, we have too many Lib Dems pretending to be Tories, and therefore those that maybe feel that the Conservatives aren't Conservative enough are seeing that Reform are a better option, which, again, I think is a little bit of a blind spot and a tricky one, which maybe will be challenged tomorrow on the fact that they are the Tories version 2. Depending on who the Labour person is tomorrow, I think you need a Labour person to be able to say, look, we represent the country, these are people that are disillusioned across the spectrum, and we want to be something totally different.
You are the Labour man here. We have no...
Not me, Andrew. No. I'm not going. Not tomorrow, anyway.
It's not an MP. It is potentially a former MP.
Robert Jenrick said this morning he's a former Labour MP.
Right. And is it potentially a member
Angela
of the
Rayner.
She might keep a seat that way at the moment. No, so I, like everyone else, I've immediately thought it was Kate Hoey.
Who was a Labour MP for many years.
She was a Labour MP for about 30 years, House of Lords, crossbencher. She's not really been part of the Labour Party probably since 2019 when she stood down. I've been informed by a Reform source I know who's always very reliable and told me last Monday that Robert Jenrick was defecting. Didn't say when, didn't know there was a timeline. It obviously got sped up. That is and they might have just putting me off, but everybody's saying it is absolutely not Kate Hoey tomorrow. Which leads me to think Graham Stringer is Labour. I would be very surprised if
he's a serving MP.
He's a serving MP.
We've heard it's not a serving MP, but these are only rumours.
Yeah.
I
think Gisela Stewart would be an outside bet. Gisela Stewart campaigned with Nigel, supported Brexit, was part of Labour Leave.
How many more MPs do they have to have in the House to make them the fundamental opposition?
I think it's something like another 72 defections, and Ed Davey might be leader of the opposition, I think. Something like that would be interesting.
But he's now got to the point where he will be, on Remembrance Sunday, he will be laying a wreath with the royal family, because he's got to 6 MPs and it's going up. And the more MPs he gets, the more short money he gets, opposition, taxpayer-funded money, so it makes his operation even more efficient.
I do think, though, Claire has a point about by-elections, but I think Miriam is right. Constitutionally, you vote for the individual. 90% of people don't know who the individual is. And I think I've always been consistent.
Actually. They do a Rosendale, because he was Mr Romford, he really was.
Well, we are going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much to our panel for joining us this morning. Plenty of news around, and here's your 60-second news update with Katie Bowen.
Good morning. The headlines at 11:32. Sir Keir Starmer has said this morning that while the UK-US relationship matters profoundly, President Trump's decision to impose tariffs on European nations over Greenland is completely wrong. It's after President Trump imposed a 10% tariff on all goods from Britain and the EU and threatened to increase it to 25% unless he's allowed to buy the Danish territory.
A trade war is in no one's interest. And my job is always to act in the UK's national interest.
Elsewhere, Prince Harry has arrived in court this morning as his trial against the publisher of the Daily Mail gets underway. The Duke of Sussex is one of 7 claimants suing associated newspapers over allegations of serious privacy breaches. The publisher strongly denies all claims. At least 39 people have been killed and more than 100 injured after 2 high-speed trains collided and one derailed in southern Spain. A train travelling from Malaga to Madrid, carrying some 300 passengers, came off the rails near Cordoba at 7:45 local time last night. And Andrew Rosendale has resigned from the Conservative Party and his position as Shadow Foreign Minister and defected to Reform UK. Speaking to reporters alongside Nigel Farage a short while ago, Mr Rosendale said that by, quote, failing to kill the bill handing the Chagos Islands over to Mauritius, the Tories lost his trust. Those are the headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom, and coming up at noon we've got Good Afternoon Britain with Tom and Nana. They're here now in the studio. What's coming up on your show?
Well, the show is called Good Afternoon Britain, and I'm well aware that today, being the 3rd Monday in January, is allegedly the most depressing day of the year. It's Blue Monday, as it is pseudo-scientifically been determined to be. And so I think we've got a special duty today to keep it light, to keep it upbeat, but there are heavy, weighty things going on in the world.
Oh, there are indeed, but also we need to look at Croydon. Facial recognition cameras.
Great story.
Now, it's really incredible. In the town centre, they have some cameras, and so every 34 minutes, they found somebody, arrested somebody. Now, 2 of the people arrested had been on the run for decades. So we're going to have a discussion, a debate.
Human rights, civil liberties versus cutting the crime rate.
It's great. I mean, what do you think, Andrew? Do you think that it's...
I'm winning out, being won over by the facial technology, because I want to see the crime rate fall. And if you've been mugged, and it's the same bugger doing the mugging, forgive me my language, I apologise, it's the same one doing it again and again, and the facial technology gets them, you want to get these people off the street.
The thing is, though, Andrew, before long, they'll be arresting you for swearing.
They will.
I suppose the thing is, we've already got the infrastructure, right? Yeah. Ever since the early 2000s, every corner of this country has been piled with CCTV.
That's right.
Per capita, we've got some of the highest levels of CCTV in the country, and yet the police can't do anything with it. So I think we've sort of crossed the Rubicon when it's come to this surveillance stuff already. Yeah. The question is, how's it applied?
Isn't this, though, the perennial question around technology? You invent something that has great potential, but you cannot stop it being abused. The nuclear bomb, for example.
They do get it wrong sometimes too. This technology doesn't always work. But it's a great debate.
Don't give it in the hands of Birmingham police.
Oh, for God's sake.
Exactly.
Well, you know,
at least
but still...
that clown resigned. Well, resigned.
It's retired. With the pension as well. This is outrageous.
We still think the Police and Crime Commission Birmingham should be fired too. They're hanging on to him for so long.
And clearly couldn't bring himself to fire him at all by the end of the process.
But what about Greenland?
Greenland, well, we will be talking about that as well. Obviously, it's the big topic of today. And Keir Starmer, in his speech, he kind of went on about why it matters to the UK. And to me, it felt like he was sort of justifying why, once again, he'll be fully distracted from what's going on in this country. Remember the Island of Strangers, that speech that he didn't read, and then did it, and then apologised and said that he was so busy on the global stage. That's why he got himself in such a pickle. So as long as they can stay focused on stuff in the UK as well, it's really important.
Well, and here's the big debate. Will Keir Starmer go to Davos?
Yes, he will.
Because the American's going to be in Davos. He wasn't planning on going. No. Nigel Farage has just revealed he's going and will meet with the American administration there, talking about Greenland. Will it now look a bit like Keir Starmer is hastily following in Nigel Farage's footsteps?
He never gets it right, does he? Never hear Keir, which is why he's not going.
Before we go, we should say we've also got a live interview with Andrew Rossendale at the top of the programme, so do stay around for that.
Good. Very good. I like Andrew very much.
Well, thank you both very much. We will also be thinking about that next because Reform UK have gained their 7th MP, the former Tory Andrew Rossendale. But when will we see the first Labour defection and who will it be? This is Britain's Newsroom
on GB News.
Good morning, welcome to your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Another pretty cloudy and murky day with outbreaks of rain and drizzle to come for many areas. There will be some sunny spells though, particularly across the far north of Scotland. We've got a southerly wind. Our weather front's moving slowly northwards through today, mainly affecting western areas, but north and north-facing coast will see the best of any brightness. So parts of northern Scotland seeing some brighter spells, as well as North Wales, northern areas of Devon as well. But I think elsewhere it's going to be a pretty cloudy and overcast day. Outbreaks of rain coming and going mainly across western areas. There'll be quite thick cloud actually across central parts, and it's going to be a pretty cool feeling day despite the sunshine across northern areas. Into this evening, those outbreaks of rain push further northwards ever so slowly, but it will still remain dry across the far north of Scotland this evening, so a touch of frost is possible, some fog developing as well overnight, and then that rain pushes into western Scotland, Northern Ireland. We could see some heavy outbreaks of rain actually through this evening, particularly across these western areas into parts of South Wales as well as in towards the Midlands as well, and still a blanket of cloud quite widely across the UK. Now that rain pushes a little bit more northwards overnight tonight, so some clearer skies will develop for a time across more western areas, but it's not going to last all that long because, as you can see, this swirl of cloud out to the west brings strengthening winds and some further wet weather to the west tomorrow. So some clearer skies, but plenty of cloud around and the winds picking up overnight. So I think frost is going to be pretty limited. It's just the far north of Scotland that could see a touch of frost by tomorrow morning. It's going to be a drier day for many north and eastern areas on Tuesday. In the west, though, a wet and windy day. We've got a wind warning out for many western areas. We could see gusts up to around 60 miles per hour. So that could bring some disruption. So please check before you travel. But across the east, it's going to be a warmer and brighter day. Have a great day.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
.11:40, Britain's News on GB News, Andrew Pierce and Miriam Cates.
Now, the Conservative Shadow Foreign Affairs Minister and MP for Romford, Andrew Rossendale, has defected to Reform UK, and he took part in a photo shoot with the party's leader, Nigel Farage, just a few moments ago.
And while they were doing that photo shoot, Farage had this message for the US President Donald Trump, who, of course, is threatening sanctions and tariffs if he doesn't get his hands on Greenland. Listen to what Nigel Farage had to say.
I would just say this. I'm all for Trump taking out enemies of the West. Maduro, the Iranian regime. But if he falls out with his own allies and leaves America isolated, that would be a very bad place to be. So I'm worried about it. I'm concerned about it. I've always been a supporter of the president since way before he got elected first time. But I will be having some words with the American administration in Davos on Wednesday.
Well, Nigel Farage there speaking a few moments ago. Well, joining us now is politics reporter at Politics Home, Tom Scottson. Good morning, Tom. Thank you for joining us. An interesting contrast between what Nigel Farage was saying there about Donald Trump and his proclamations about Greenland and what Keir Starmer said earlier in the day. Who do you think came across more prime ministerial?
Well, good morning, and thank you very much for having me on. Yeah, I was at the press conference today with Keir Starmer, and it was very interesting. It's probably the closest he had come to real criticisms of the US president. He did stress about the relationship that's endured between the UK and many of the state secrets that, of course, he cannot delve into to the public and the media. But also, as well, Farage, that was also the closest that he had come to criticising his close friend Trump. I think Farage has really leaned on the fact that he has a very close relationship with the US administration and also the Republican Party. So it was a really good showing of two leading candidates for the next general election, particularly the Prime Minister and also Farage, and really showcasing the levels that they can leverage, particularly with the US administration.
And of course, on Wednesday, Tom, the world leaders are gathering in Davos. Keir Starmer pointedly not going to be there. He normally attends because he's very alive to the criticism of that nickname, Never Hear Keir. Nigel Farage will be there, and you know for sure that there will be a meeting between Farage and the President of the United States. Hasn't the Prime Minister now got to go? Because if there is then some compromise with the United States, it'll be Farage who'll claim the credit.
I think it's interesting talking to Labour MPs because they see that Keir Starmer's main strength as the relationship that he has built with the US. Now, he did say before he became Prime Minister that he preferred working in Davos to Westminster, which I thought was quite an interesting detail and probably one that he may deep down regret saying. But I think that it's also quite interesting that someone like Farage, who's been a huge critic, I should say, of Davos, and particularly those that attend and the political leaders. But I think it's one of those that Farage will be going there and really trying to show that he still has a relationship with Trump and maybe trying to walk him off the edge, particularly as this is the closest I've seen Farage come to a real full-blown criticism of the US president.
And Tom, Nigel Farage told us last week, of course, when Robert Jenrick defected, there's going to be a Labour defection this week. It could be as soon as tomorrow. Robert Jenrick suggested it's a former Labour MP. We're being told that it is not Kate Hoey, a former Labour MP who's now in the House of Lords. Do you have any intelligence? Is it tomorrow, the announcement? And do you have any clue who it is?
Well, the rumours, particularly in the room on Thursday, whether it was going to be Kate Hoey, as you said, that she was very involved in the unofficial Leave campaign during 2016 and 2015 with Farage. But she said that's been ruled out now. I could only guess it'd be someone from that era that worked with Farage very closely. Gisela Stewart is one name that's popped up. Again, she was on the official Leave campaign, but did work with Nigel Farage. But I presume that it won't be someone from that kind of Remain sphere. It'll be someone that has definitely backed Farage's Euroscepticism and is very closely aligned on that. But it's probably someone that has been aligned with Labour in the past and probably not the present Labour Party.
All right, Tom. Tom Scottson, who's politics reporter at Politics Home. We'll wait and see. I wonder if people think, is that... what was that behind him? That is laundry.
Quite possibly. Wouldn't like to speculate. Well, coming up next, pubs across Britain are braced for the Chancellor's business rates relief announcement this week. We're off to a local pub in her constituency in just a minute.
But first, if you want some of that elusive holiday sun, blimey, I'd like some. Here you go. Here's the forecast, some of our top European destinations.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. Storm Harry, named by the Spanish Met Service, will bring some heavy rain, thunderstorms, strong winds to central parts of the Mediterranean over the next few days. Dry across Turkey and Greece on Tuesday, but rather chilly. Wet weather across Italy into the Balearics and then eastern Spain as well. Some snow over the higher ground. Dry towards Madeira, down into the Canaries, Tenerife, 18 degrees, sunny spells, where it remains warm over the next few days here.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News,
Britain's news channel.
News channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back. Well, Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, her constituency is one of the worst in Yorkshire for pub closures.
Sector leaders warn that the Chancellor's own constituency has one of the highest pub closure rates in the area.
Now, joining us now is GB News Yorkshire and Humber reporter Anna Riley, who's at the Beacon pub in Bramley. Anna, good morning. What are you hearing from publicans up in Yorkshire?
Good morning, Miriam and Andrew. Yes, we're here in the Beacon, and a lot of publicans, they're waiting for that all-important announcement from the Chancellor about what kind of package pubs are going to get. We're here in her constituency in Bramley, and West Yorkshire's an area that's seen one of the highest numbers of pub closures, so certainly a lot of concerned landlords. I'm joined now by the landlord, Craig Downey. Craig, just tell us, we're still waiting for this announcement, but what is it that you want to see for pubs?
Well, really what we want to see for pubs is more support, isn't it? More support, and especially with rates. I mean, much else we can't do nothing about the, the gas and electric and the minimum wage. We can't do not about that. But the rates, they can help us out. The brew companies are trying to help us out. Stonegate's trying to help us out, doing the best they can. They need help as well to help us. You've got to help. You've got to look after those that look after you.
And what sort of impact have you seen since the budget?
Well, we have seen it, like Christine said before, she said, it's a downturn in trade, which is it's going the wrong way. We need to go forwards, not backwards.
What does it mean, pubs closing? What sort of a hub is a pub like yours for the community?
It means a lot. It means a lot. It's where people talk, where people socialise. The lads that working all day, and then they need that couple of pints, a couple of hours, just relief from work, and a little bit of Dutch curry before they go home and seat wife.
That's it. So you're just waiting to hear, really, and wanting more support from the government, especially the local MP.
Yeah, of course, yeah. I mean, we've you know, people have supported the local MPs, you know, to get them where they are now. You look after those that look after you. Now we need to be looked after. We've got our local MPs where they are. Look after us now. You know, we've done our job. We've done our bit. You do your bit now.
And how hard is it with this current uncertainty at the moment?
Well, we don't know where we're going, do we? I don't know where I'm going. I don't know where the future lies. I've just got to just carry on, just carry on. If things change for the better. Just hope for it. If it doesn't, we'll be doomed. And it's a community. It's where people come to talk and chat. If you look around here, the houses around here, there's single people, elder people, who come here to chat. People come here to chat. They live on their own, and they come here to chat. And there's always somebody else chatting in the Beacon.
Thank you so much, Craig. Very chatty. Thank you for having us here in the Beacon. So that's Craig's view here, the landlord of the Beacon in Bromley.
All right. Very good. And another publican banned the chance of this jacket from their hostelry. Quite right, too.
Well, it's too early for a drink, but it's not too early for Tom and Nana here for Good Afternoon Britain. That's all from us.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Another cloudy day to come, some outbreaks of rain and drizzle, but there will be some sunshine around too, and temperatures near average but mild in the south once more. So we have two bands of weather bringing rain, so cloud and rain across Northern Ireland, western Scotland this morning, and another one affecting much of England and Wales, giving some low cloud, misty, murky conditions through the day, outbreaks of rain and drizzle. But in between these, there is some sunnier breaks, parts of Scotland, western fringes of England and Wales, and perhaps even southeast England seeing some sunnier breaks too, and temperatures generally similar to recent days between 7 and 9 degrees. Into the evening time, those weather bands not really going very far. So central parts of Scotland, a dry end to the day, but turning quite chilly under clear skies. To the east and west, rather cloudy with some patchy rain, and those bands of cloud and rain stretching south into parts of Northern Ireland, Northern England, so a cloudy end to the day here. Much of the rest of England and Wales also cloudy, rain and drizzle, hill fog in places, but a few cloud breaks from time to time through the evening. And very little changes overnight as well. We may start to see the bands of cloud pushing a little further north and eastwards as we go through the night, allowing some clearer spells towards parts of Wales and the West Country ahead of the next weather system, which starts to come in for Tuesday. So temperatures under the cloud holding up 4, 5, 6, 7 degrees. Any clearer spells a little lower, but most of us frost-free to start Tuesday. The weather systems move out the way